let's talk about Valentine's Day. More particularly, a series of novellas about Valentine's Day. So this series came out a month ago or something like that. It has 6 novellas from 6 different authors, and I will talk about them in the order that I read them. And yeah, let's go. So the first one is Time Will Tell by Bonam-Young. I wanted to start with her book, with her novella, because I really like her as an author. And it has 82 pages, and in this one you follow Georgia and Callum. And Georgia lives in Canada and Callum lives in England. And Georgia's grandmother died very recently, and in her will she gave a letter to Georgia to tell her that when she was younger she had made like a time capsule and that she buried it near her graveyard. And it's because in this time capsule she documented her relationship with a woman, and this woman was Callum's grandmother. And at first, when Georgia learns that her grandmother was a lesbian, because we learned then that when she got married with Georgia's grandfather, he knew about it and it was not a problem. So she was a lesbian. And when Georgia learns that, at first she's sad because she's like, oh, maybe she didn't feel like she could tell me anything about her life. But then she realized that no, she wrote a letter especially to me because she felt like she could tell me this. And so when she digs up the time capsule, she decides to contact Callum because he's the grandson of the other woman. And so they start to correspond in their story, and it's like a epistolary romance because they send each other emails. At first it's for like the time capsule, especially because Georgia is a teacher and she wanted to use the time capsule to talk about history. And at first she shared the email between her and Callum, but then the emails become more personal, so she stops sharing them. But you see them falling in love via words. But at some point they start to call each other, and then she decides during her summer break to visit England and for them to open the time capsule together. And it's kind of not love at first sight, but when they meet for the first time, the first thing they do is like kiss each other. So I really like this one. They only meet during the last chapter, so don't expect a lot of quality time like with each other. And what I felt was cute was that they both, even when they were just typing and talking with each other with emails, they were both like already envisioning their lives together. And I thought it was cute because it's quite like a naive when you start talking to somebody and you imagine the life you could have with this person. And it was like, again, Bonam-Young's write real people. So I really liked that. And for them it was like fate, because I forgot to say, this series is about like second chances or like second time romances. And it for them it was like, oh, their grandmother were together, they couldn't spend their whole lives together, they spent 7 years together, but now they feel like their grandmothers brought Georgia and Callum's together, so they feel like it's fate. So I thought this novella was quite cute. There was no sex, so I quite also enjoyed that because there's not a lot of pages and I don't want the sex to take a lot of those pages. So really enjoyed this one. The second one is Second Act Romance by Soto. It's 60 pages, and you follow Bex and CJ. And in this one, you follow Bex on a national tour of like a musical in the US. But at some point, like maybe 3/4 of the cast has like food poisoning on the day of Valentine's Day, so they can't cancel the representation because they have like a whole deal, like the package with a show and a meal, and it's sold out, so they can't cancel the show. And CJ comes as a replacement for the lead actor in the musical. It's the Oklahoma musical. I don't know this one, but yeah. But the thing is that CJ and Bex worked together 8 years ago, and it was the other way around, where Bex was there to be the replacement of the lead, and she worked with CJ, but only for a day. So now the roles are reversed. The thing is, for me, the problem with this one, again, it's the shortest one, like I said, it's 60 pages. It was not at all believable, because the only time that it were with each other was one day 8 years ago, and the only time they really talked as themselves during that day was between the two shows, between the two representation, because before the first show, Bex had to rehearse and be sure that she could be on stage. So they didn't really know each other like personally. And that was also the case for the present timeline, that they didn't really talk. It was just here as last minute resort, and they couldn't talk a lot, because again there was also the plot line of everybody having food poisoning, so a lot of people were puking in this novella. And you just see them like, for me this novella was just a moment of their lives, but it was like very, very beginning of their relationship, even though they kiss towards the end, and was like maybe a bit too quick for that. And this novella could have worked as like a beginning of a full-length novel. But the thing is, if it was a full-length novel, I wouldn't have read it because I didn't really enjoy the writing. I'm not the type of person who really notices writing, but I only notice it when it's not for me or it's bad. And this writing, I don't know if it was bad or just not for me, but one of the two. And also, I don't mind it because I like musical and theater, but there was a lot of theater and musical jargon and words. So if you don't know them, or if you're not interested at all, you can be quite bored by this novella. Like the first one, I would recommend this one. Yeah. The third novella is Accidentally Yours by Christina Loren. It's 93 pages, and you follow Veronica and Jude. So Veronica has just been laid off, so she's searching for a new job, and at some point she waits on a like Zoom call, but instead of being on an interview, she's like in the middle of a meeting of like marketing people. But then she has so much rage because she has been fired, that she's just tell them that everything you do is not good. Look at this, it's not good at all, it's not good marketing. Who does this kind of like PowerPoint or slides? And then she exits the Zoom meeting, and the chief or the CEO of this company decides to reach to her and write her an email to say, would you like to work with me or with us? And she's like, no. But then they start to flirt with each other, but at the same time she decides to, okay, I can work with them like in freelance style. And it's quite weird because she's flirting with her boss. She doesn't know what he looks like, but the main thing is that she's flirting with her boss. She's like, oh, it's not the same, don't really work for him. But in my head I'm like, girl, he's paying your salary, so he's your boss. Even if you work freelance, he's still your boss. The other plot line of this novella is that Veronica really likes one of the other tenants in her building, and there's a lot of people going every day at the same time to their mailbox because they know that the mailman comes at 2 p.m. and so she likes seeing him, but like she's flirting with her boss, she likes her neighbor. But of course, as a reader, you know that her boss and her neighbor are the same person. But to me, I couldn't get over the fact that she was flirting with her boss without knowing what he looks like and that he's her boss. Like, not even she didn't know his age. And again, in this one, no sex, which was a good thing because too short for sex scenes. Next, the fourth one was the worst one for me. It's A Play for Love by Trilina Pucci. It's 88 pages, and you follow Rory and Oliver. Again, a few years ago, Rory and Oliver were like scenes partners, for an exam for theater. And they read Romeo and Juliet, and they kissed like the first time they met. They did that scene. But again, I wrote in my notes, hate, hate, hate. So they met 5 years ago, they did a Romeo and Juliet scene and they kissed. Now 5 years later, in New York City, it's Rory's last day in New York. She's moving back, I think it's San Diego or like on the West Coast. And it's Valentine's Day, and Oliver is working as kind of a cupid in a restaurant, and they decide to live together. Like he's only wearing wings and like golden shorts, and that's it. And they do like her last day in New York together. They do quite touristy things together. And you follow them. There's like timestamps. It's like each chapter has a timestamp. To be honest, what I didn't like was like the plot in itself, because again, they met only like maybe 10 minutes 5 years ago. They were in the same university, but they never interact before they do like the Romeo and Juliet scene. The writing style, really didn't like it. It was like so quirky and cringy, like, oh my god, it's the most beautiful man I've ever seen in my life, what will I do now? Like stuff like that. I'm like, And when she's thinking like that, she's 22, but even at 22, it's cringy. And then towards the end, so she lives on the West Coast and he stays in New York, and the end they reunite, but he now lives in the same city as her, but he has been living in the same city as her for 6 weeks, and he didn't tell her, even if they were like communicating, he didn't tell her. And I was like, what would you do that? Like a month and a half, you could have seen her a month and a half ago and you decided not to. It was so weird, and it was a lot of telling instead of showing, and hopefully there was no sex scenes, like they have sex but it's not on page. And I wrote, thankfully no sex, because would have not survived it. And if it was like a full-length novel, I would have DNF'd it pretty quickly. So I really didn't like this one. The fifth one, it's the most like out there, and it could have been a Halloween novella, it would have been the same, and it's Valentine's Sleigh by Navessa Allen. It's 95 pages, and you follow Noah and Emma. And Noah works for his family cemetery, and he's just buried somebody from his high school that he used to know. And so he finished burying the coffin, and then he starts hearing a scream, and he's looking everywhere, but he realizes that the scream is coming from the ground. So actually the person he just buried was still alive. And actually, so the person that was buried is Emma, and she has been drugged by her husband, who has a lot of connections, so he didn't need to have a lot of proof to show that she was dead, but she was just drugged. Her parents couldn't see her, nobody could see her, and he's a doctor, so he's like, no, she's dead, I'm the doctor, I can tell when she's dead. He had just drugged her. So Noah saves her. The thing I didn't really like is the fact that they have sex the same night she's being rescued. They could have waited like maybe a day, who knows. Like she has just woke up from a drug-induced coma. She woke up in a coffin, buried under a lot of dirt, and now they just want to have sex together. I was like, it's a bit too soon. It's like she has survived enough trauma for the day, maybe wait a little bit to have sex. And I wrote that it was a fun story, besides the fact that she was drugged. There was action scenes. So in this one there was sex on page, but they also have their revenge towards the husband. And I also really enjoyed the epilogue, because I felt like even if it was 95 pages, the story was very well rounded, and you just didn't need more. It was just fun, even if at some points it was a bit weird. But I still enjoyed this one. And the last one, it's Death to Valentine's Day by Cowles. It's 100 pages. So in this one you follow Decker and Maria, and they go to Death to Valentine's Day party. And it's kind of a murder mystery, but it's coming out of nowhere. So Decker is the brother of Maria's ex, and the three of them, like, Maria, Decker, and his brother were childhood best friend, but the brother, I forgot his name, always was jealous of what Decker had. So when Decker said that he was interested in Maria, the brother asked her out first. And so for 10 years, Decker didn't say anything. And now they have broken up, so they reunite in this party. But at some point, when Maria goes outside, she sees a body on the floor. And it could have been okay, like a murder mystery, but the plot twist and the person who killed the woman, it was coming out of nowhere, and it just made me laugh when it happened, because it's like a full 180, and you're like, okay, like it could have just been a snowed in during Valentine's Day story, but no, the author decided to add like a murder, which was quite silly actually. and I wrote, the twist and murderer was completely stupid and very silly. Wouldn't recommend this one. I think it was my second to least favorite novella of them all. But all in all, I think I read all of them in a day. I think in total it's a little bit more than 400 pages. It's quite quick, it's fun. You don't need to be like, even if you hate Valentine's Day or if you don't want to celebrate, there's not a lot of link with the Valentine's Day like in itself, because we're talking about romance, so romance exists all year around. But yeah, I really enjoyed this novella series. It was fun, it was quick. But yeah, that's the end of the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!